Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney. This is Nidra. She's gonna apparently sit here and look sad. But today I have a Throwback Thursday for you. We're going to be talking about Spook the Mustang by Harlan Thompson. Pretty enjoyable book. I will talk about this in just a second. Before I do, though, just a reminder, there was another video up today, which was for last week's Throwback Thursday. If you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. That was a 5-star book. I absolutely loved it. So check out that video. I also did 2 videos yesterday for my weekly Wednesday read because I also missed last week's weekly Wednesday. In the first video from yesterday, I talk about the rating system I'm using this year, which is the CAWPILE rating system. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely check out that video. I will also leave the original creator down below, and then Emily Jean Blatt channel, who is the person I learned about it from. So you can check out her channel as well if you would like. But so far, absolutely love the rating system. I think it's been pretty enjoyable. And then also just a reminder, we do Book of the Month discussions every Monday. We do our weekly reads every Wednesday, our Throwback Thursdays, of course. And then Series Saturdays have resumed. Those will just be popping up here and there. And then other bonus videos as well. I'm working my way through my ABC Author Challenge books and my 25 days of Bookmas books, and I actually just did a book haul that went along with those books. So if you haven't already, please like this video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on a thing. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump in and talk about Spook the Mustang. So for the CAWPILE rating, I gave characters 7. I thought the characters were pretty enjoyable. I definitely felt connected to them, but there could have been more depth there for sure. But overall, I thought they were really enjoyable characters. Atmosphere, I only gave a 6. I didn't think the atmosphere was quite as well done. I mean, that you had moments, but I thought it could have been a little bit better done, a little bit more descriptive. Writing style also gave a 6 for the same reasons, and there was also just some of the way the words were phrased. I can't remember when this one was published, but some of the phrasing was just kind of hard to follow, and I think that kind of dropped it down for me. So it was published in 1956. So that might have something to do with it. But overall, I mean, pretty good writing. And then plot, I also gave a 6. There's kind of a couple different plot lines going, and I don't know if I would put it more as a secondary plot line. Um, I think that plot line kind of dropped it down for me just because I don't know, I think if the way he did it, the plot line could have had more depth. That plot line could have been more in depth, but it was just kind of part of the beginning, part of the story, and then just kind of kept hanging on until the end. And it just really didn't go anywhere until the end, and then it felt a little rushed, if that makes sense. Intrigue, I gave a 7. I mean, I kind of was intrigued and wanted to know, what was going to happen for sure. Logic, I gave a 6 again for that secondary plot line. The logic I felt like just wasn't really there. Like it was kind of like, could it happen? Sure, but there was a certain sense of disbelief there that was like, okay, like this really doesn't make sense, but okay. And then enjoyment, I also gave a 7 because overall I did really enjoy the book. It was a pretty good solid read. It wasn't my favorite, but it was a good solid read. So the total average rating was 6.42, which equals a 3-star rating. So basically, the premise of the book, you have uh jeez, I can't even remember his name now. David. I was like, uh-oh. David and his 2 parents, they end up coming back to California from Mexico. They had tried to run a ranch down there and it ended up failing. So they're coming back to his grandfather's place. and they learn that his grandfather has disappeared, which is the secondary plot line I'm talking about. And so initially they are just gonna keep on moving. They don't want to do the ranching life anymore because of their bad luck in Mexico, but they ended up staying on and kind of restoring the grandfather's ranch essentially. And so the main plot line is about Spook, who's this cult, and he's kind of there's back taxes and such he owes, and one of the neighboring ranchers gave his grandfather a loan, and so he's kind of betting on Spook to become this roper, and to win this rodeo, that happens every year. So that's kind of the main plot line. But something happens to Spook when he's a young colt that makes him scared of birds, and so he's trying to get him over this fear. Why train him how to be a roping horse and everything like that. And so that's kind of the main plot line, that you have. And so you're kind of wondering, is this cult ever going to get over his fear or not? And I don't know. I think the end of the book was a little bit rushed, as far as like, he spent so much time on the cult growing up and kind of establishing the ranch, and then the next couple years is just kind of rushed through, and see if he can win this money so he can pay the back taxes before the ranch gets sold off, because there's like 5 years before they'll sell it off, and 3 years back taxes, and then he has 2 years to kind of earn what he needs to earn in order to save the ranch. And so yeah, I think the end part was kind of rushed, and a lot of time was spent in the beginning part, so I think that could have been evened out a little bit more. But overall, I mean, by that point, you're kind of like, okay, like what's going to happen? And you're just ready to know. And then the underlying mystery of his missing grandfather, like I said, it kind of gets strung along and is kind of rushed at the end again, which I think if you're going to have that be a main plot, I think it could have been done a little bit better. And then there's also kind of this foreshadowing of a flood. Um, they're kind of in a floodplain, and the neighbor rancher, David is working for, he actually hires him on, which I like that kind of character and that dynamic, because you really see how kind this rancher is, because he actually wants this land that belongs to David's grandfather, and because of the loan, he has standing to get it when the 5 years is up. But he ends up hiring David on and kind of helping him out. So there's also this point where he's gonna have to make a choice, between his cattle and this other rancher's cattle, and so we see that come into play as well. But overall, I think it was a good, solid book. Like I said, there's some issues with the writing, but again, that might have been just the time period it was written in. But again, I've read older books that I don't have that issue with, so it could have just been the way this author phrased things as well. But overall, pretty enjoyable. You definitely root for not only Spook but the main character. And like I said, the characters were pretty well done. You do feel a connection to them. And like David, he's only 17 at the beginning of the book, and he's having to care for his father, who's like on the brink of a mental breakdown and everything like that, and who's pretty ill. And then his mom, just is a housewife, and so there's a lot on David's shoulders, and you really feel that, and you're kind of rooting for this character as well. But yeah, overall, a pretty solid book. If you like horses, I think you would enjoy this for sure. Um, but there were certain things that could have done a little bit better. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave that here. Next week, I have it's kind of a collection of horse stories that I'm going to be reading, so that'll be Throwback Thursday for next week, and then we're gonna finish up my horse obsession portion of my childhood. We have 3 different series we are going to be talking about, and that will finish up the horse obsession, and we'll finally move on to something else. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.